Welcome to the Test Match Special podcast, looking back on an eventful second day at Emirates Old Trafford. Ben Stokes and Dom Sibley both recorded centuries, and then Sam Curran made a breakthrough with the ball. We'll catch up with Stokes shortly, and we'll also hear from the Warwickshire favourite Andy Moles, who's completed a 10-kilometre walking challenge just 3 months after having part of his leg amputated. But first, to look back on events here today, we'll get the thoughts of Michael Vaughan and Carlos Brathwaite.
The TMS Podcast from BBC Radio 5 Live.
So close of play of the second day, the second test between England and West Indies at Emirates Old Trafford sees West Indies close on 32 for 1. That means they're 437 runs behind England's first innings total, which Joe Root declared closed at 469 for 9. So 469 for 9 declared from 162 overs. It was a marathon. Dom Sibley finished with 120. From 372 balls, he put on 260 with Ben Stokes, who scored 176. He fell to reverse sweep off Kemar Roach, which was slightly unusual, to put it mildly. Other wickets to fall, Pope made 7, Buckler 40, Wokes got a first baller, and Curran 17, as Roston Chase, the off-spinner, finished with 5 for 172. Kemar Roach 2 for 58. He was on a hat-trick at one stage. Joseph and Holder taking 1 wicket apiece. So, the West Indies in reply lost John Campbell, LBW to Curran for 12. That was 16 for 1. The night watchman, Alzara Joseph, came out and played all sorts of shots. It was an unusual night watchman's innings, and, well, had England used a review, he would have been out LBW in the last over of the day. One of those, it's very hard to umpire, one that hits the pattern in the bat very quickly in succession, but Curran appealed. They had the option of reviewing the not-out decision, but decided not to. But, of course, the all-telling replay showed immediately that the ball had just flicked the pad first, and he was absolutely plumb in front. But he'll resume tomorrow. I'm rather looking forward to seeing him resume, actually, because that was a very exciting innings for a night watchman. 14 not out. Brathwaite on 6, Campbell out for 12, 437 behind. I should say the forecast for tomorrow is bad, but we'll just keep our fingers crossed that that's not going to turn out to be the case. Where we're going to start? Let's start with Carlos Brathwaite tonight. Well, 1 wicket down. I mean, it's a nasty little time to bat, wasn't it? I suppose you'd probably settle for that.
Yeah, you would. New ball, bowlers are fresh. They just fielded 162 overs. Not a bad result. Alzara Joseph tried his best to make it 2 down, but
that was a remarkable little cameo innings, wasn't it?
He's sending like watchman out. You expect to see him plodding forward, plodding along, trying to get it to the end of play, and he's trying to get us as close to the run as possible.
I mean, I think Brathwaite gave up talking to him in the end. He came down at least twice and said, "Come on, calm down," but he just sort of gave up. Really, very exciting. Looking forward to tomorrow. I
mean, that is his character. Like, he believes in himself. Sometimes misplaced and misguided, as we see with the bat. But he felt that was his best way of doing the job for the team, and it was entertaining, to say the least. But he's made it through. Yeah. So there will be a lot of guys in the dressing room who would have been holding their breath. They can exhale now. They've seen out the day and only 1 wicket down.
Michael Vaughan is behind me, behind the plastic screens. I mean, it's inevitably, we talk about England's batting, talk about Ben Stokes in particular, I think, are really kicked on. Didn't you think I really admired about Stokes' innings today? He got 176. It was that actually we saw he sort of showcased the way that he can play. I mean, very careful defence, of course, to start with, but then those outrageous shots as well. We saw a bit of everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's the all-round package, isn't it, in terms of the way that he can play, and then you point to the equation that he can play 50-over cricket, T20 cricket, and also read the game in all those 3 formats of the game. You know, I look at all-rounders, and I always know that you're talking about great cricketers when they can get into the side as a batsman. Now, Ben Stokes at the minute is England's best batsman, without any question. His balance, his reading of the game, the way that he plays all the different angles, the way that he plays the pace, the spin, his mentality, his control, everything about his play. You know, he's a top-order batsman, and also he'd get into the side as a bowler. That's when you know that you've got an outstanding all-rounder in the team. At 29 years of age, you could argue that his best years are still ahead of him.
Yeah.
You know, he's got so much kind of knowledge being stored in that computer that if he brings it out over the next 5 to 7 years, however long he can continue to play, I still think we haven't quite seen. We've seen some incredible moments, but I think in Test match cricket, you look at his figures over the last 16 Test matches, he averages 54 with the bat, 4 centuries and 5 50s. And of course, he'll have the odd game when he doesn't get big scores, but I just think he's going to be that kind of consistency now for the next few years. So that average, what is he at, 37 now, 37, 38? I have no doubt saying now that he will end his Test career with an average well over 40 if he continues to keep that kind of drive and that mentality, which I don't think he's the kind of character that will relax and sit back and think, oh, I've done enough now. He looks to me, I mean, he could have sat back and relaxed after last year, what he did. And he's come back in 2020, and he's the same Ben Stokes as we saw last year. So I think we've got many more years watching an incredible cricketer.
What's interesting, and I'm not just, Carlos is here. I mean, a lesser man, a lesser character, could have been destroyed by what you did to him in that massive profile, that T20 final, to just take him apart like that. I mean, it says a lot for him actually that he has. Well, not only come back, but he's come back stronger actually from that.
Yeah, and you think not only the World Cup, but then what happened the night in Bristol.
Yes.
And that was off of the field. So you had 2 very important incidents, one on the field in a final, one off the field with a legal battle, and it would have been front page news throughout England. And yeah, the remarkable comeback that he's made. I don't know the English system much, and I just like to look at things from a different angle. And it's fine to run in and bowl, it's fine, as Michael said, to bat the way he's been batting. But just think about all the months after the World Cup, what would have been done within the dressing room, family-wise, circle-wise. Then after the incident at Bristol again, to have the sort of persons around you and support system to want to make you go back out. We talk about mental health now, and it's no joke. There are a lot of people who just go out there and do it just because, but it seems as though he wants to do it for all the right reasons, and I'm sure that there must be a support system. We saw him raise his finger for his dad.
Yes.
I'm sure that as much credit as he's getting publicly, he's probably showering his support system privately, because they have to take as much credit privately or as he's doing publicly for all the accolades that he's received since. It's very difficult to come back from those 2 sort of public humiliations.
Yeah.
And I'd even go a step further and say his chat to Jofra before the World Cup final would need to be a similar chat after this breach for Jofra, and Jofra can look in the dressing room and see a guy who, and I mean, not to be disrespectful to him, but the way that he was painted after, he was humiliated on the field in the final.
Yep.
He was humiliated off the field the night in Bristol. He wasn't proud of it, and he's come back and he was given an OBE. He's well on the way to being Sir Benjamin Andrew Stokes. So Jofra has not far to look to see how he can recover.
That's a really good point, actually, for those who have a conversation about the way forward for Jofra and to move on from this.
They seem good friends, and Joff spoke about it. Their relationship would have started sometime around IPL, and it's funny how IPL can take credit for such a good relationship for England national team. But Ben Stokes reached out to him, Jofra impressed him, and then there was a time just before the World Cup when you wondered, will Jofra be accepted? But for Ben Stokes in that dressing room, Josh Butler, who would have shared the IPL dressing room with him, I'm sure they would have said, listen, this guy is worth his salt. Yes. And I'm sure you'll see what we've seen at IPL level. He's gone on to prove it. Now it's just all the other things outside of the cricket that Ben Stokes obviously needs to put his hand around Jofra and kind of usher him from where he is now. And Ben would review and see this is where he was in 2016, where he was in 2017, 2018, and get Jofra 2021, 2022 to where Ben Stokes is in 2020 as a leader and as Mr. England, really, for England cricket.
Very good point. Roston Chase, 5 wickets, the off-spinner, turn the ball. So if they do get on the field tomorrow, and I hope they do, we might see quite a few overs of spin, I'd have thought, from Bess and from Root as well.
Yeah, I mean, Dominic Bess will not get a better chance. His team have got the score that he would want as a spinner on the board. You look back to Southampton, England didn't get enough runs, and the off-spinner was under a huge amount of pressure. Also, he's got Sam Curran to develop some omelettes, some footholds for him outside the right-handers off stump. There's plenty of right-handers in this West Indian lineup. You know, he bowled a couple of overs this evening, didn't quite get it right, but there's going to be plenty there for him. And you know, it's times like this that you look at the spinner and you think this is a great chance. You know, you get opportunities, don't you, that, you know, your team have put you in this great position, and now as a young off spinner, he's got to come out and not put pressure on himself, but, you know, he would expect to deliver in this circumstance. England need 19 more wickets to win the Test match, to level the series, and he would hope out of that 19 that, you know, that he'd get a fair share of them in these kind of conditions. In what we've seen from Roston Chase, you know, as a young spinner, he'll be very, I hope, very excited that this could be a good 3 days for him to finish with a bag full of wickets.
And how can you see the West Indies approaching this innings? I mean, if they draw the game, they've retained the trophy.
I tell you what, if Alzarri bats for a few hours, they'll get close to this target by tea.
They can look to set a target by tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, that needs to be the conversation dressing room. Alzarri will play what Alzarri will play. We can't tell Alzarri to play any different than that. But it needs to be positive. It needs to be, if we can bat for all of tomorrow, well into the fourth day, we've basically batted ourselves to regaining the Wisden Trophy. The bowlers would have done it in the first innings. It's time for the batsmen, the first test, time for the batsmen to step up.
This is the TMS podcast from BBC Radio 5 Live.
So, as promised, we can hear from Ben Stokes, who scored 176, and he's been speaking to Eleanor Oldroyd.
Ben, congratulations, another Test match century. How was that one for you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously I had to restrain myself, I think. You know, the conditions in the wicket sort of always offered the bowlers something, you know, felt like it swung pretty much throughout their whole innings, even when the ball was old, which is why I think they took quite a long time to take the new ball. But it's what, you know, we spoke about last week after the Ageas bowlers. You know, if you're the person who's in, then really making sure you go on and make it count. So me and Dom were very you know, conscious of that and understanding that it's not a very easy wicket to start on, and we knew we just had to build a partnership, and I thought we fed off each other. You know, Sibbers does a fantastic job at the top for us, you know, being that rock, and sort of being able to bat round them and go through the gears like I like to do is obviously a lot easier when you've got someone like Dom at the other end.
When you're out there batting for such a long time with somebody, what kind of conversations are you having at the end of every over?
Not a lot, really. Just a typical glove touch and, yeah, keep going, mate. And just, yeah, I don't know, just sort of stay in your own little bubble. You know, everyone's individual, and you sort of get a feel for how people like to operate in the middle. You know, you get some guys who don't really like to say much, or some guys who just sort of like to have a laugh with. Dom's pretty chilled. So, yeah, we wouldn't say the conversations or anything to really listen to.
When you've come from a Test match like Southampton, where you got to that point of 249 for 3 and then lost quick wickets very quickly, was that something that was in your mind at all, that you, when you passed that point in the innings?
Yeah, I think so. You know, it is always in obviously the back of your mind, where you know how hard it is for people to come out and start. So not allowing that to happen on a consistent basis is obviously key. And you know, I thought the way that me and Dom, you know, operated the periods, especially when it was tricky. You know, I thought the West Indies made us work really, really hard for the runs that we got. They went through periods of bowling very, very well, and sort of really dried the scoring up. So you just have to sort of play the game a bit. And then obviously, if, you know, being instinctive like I am, sort of trying to take hold of the game and, you know, go through the gears as I did.
And you played some wonderful shots, but were you frustrated with the shot that you got out to, or was that just an indication of tiredness at that point?
No, I think you sort of have to, as I say, you know, being instinctive and understanding how that they were bowling. You know, I knew that their plan is to, you know, bowl it wide and just sort of hang out there and test my patience. But sort of, you know, being the player I am, I don't really want to let people do that. And look, I mean, you know, getting out 170 in a reverse sweep is pretty rogue, but you know, I look at it, it's yeah, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. I think, you know, I looked at the pros and cons of the shot, and, you know, any bat on that, it's 4, and fortunately just managed to flick my glove.
What's it like hitting those milestones when you haven't got a crowd here to support you and to cheer you in?
Oh, look, I think no matter what, you know, you're out there trying to perform and trying to contribute to your team winning. So, I mean, obviously it's very different not having a crowd here. You know, the energy that they bring is obviously amazing, and obviously we don't have that. But I think once you're out there over the line, obviously the game mentality takes over, and you sort of. I found that I notice things that I don't really notice when you've got crowds in. You know, like cameramen and little things sort of going around with the spider cam. You notice more because you don't have that crowd in the background. But yeah, once you get over that line, it's all about the game.
Do you feel that you've set the team up for a winning position now?
Yeah, I think if you can get 450 plus on the board, you're in a very strong position. Obviously, we got a wicket tonight. You know, you could say we might have been greedy, saying we want 2 or 3, but those situations are obviously very difficult as a batter. But sometimes you can go searching for it as a bowling team and want to bowl 6 wicket taking deliveries. But to come away with 1 wicket after a great 2 days for England, we're very happy and looking forward to coming back tomorrow.
And when we spoke to Chris Silverwood last night, we talked to him about Jofra Archer and the situation there, and he said that he was hoping that his teammates would rally round, talk to him, keep in touch with him. Is that something that you've been doing, or something that you will be doing when the 5 days are up?
I've stayed in contact with Joff over text. What we understand is, he can be very vulnerable in a lonely place right now. So for us as a team, it's all about coming together, because that's really what we stand on. Obviously it's not an ideal position to be in for Joff, but at the end of the day, when you spend so much time with someone, you sort of take away the outside noise, and you got to understand the emotions that he's going through right now. And at the end of the day, making sure that Joff's as happy as he possibly can be is the main thing for us.
How is he?
You can imagine what he's like, but we just need to do everything that we can to make sure that we keep him going, and we don't make him feel like he is isolated and sort of just sat even though he is by himself, but just making sure that he knows he's not, which is what we're very good at as a team.
Absolutely. Well done, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
And now some reaction then for the West Indies camp. Eleanor also spoke to Roston Chase.
Although we weren't getting the wickets like we were accustomed getting, I still thought that we were disciplined in our lines and lengths, and we never really let the English batters get away, although they were wearing us down. I just thought that we were still disciplined and consistent in our lines and lengths. So still well played to the English batters, but well bowled to our bowlers as well.
Well, Ben Stokes was very complimentary about the way you all stuck to your task out there. When you're playing against someone like him and you know how destructive he can be, what's that like as a spinner?
Yeah, well, at first I thought he would have come a bit harder, but seeing that they weren't really scoring fast, and the way that we pegged them back in the first game, we got the wickets of their lower order very cheaply. So I thought that played a lot on his mind. So he was a little more patient and a little more selective in what he was doing. But we still obviously knew what he could do. Coming on to the end of his innings there, I thought that he was really trying to take the game away from us. But as I said, we were still hitting our lines and lengths, and we made it difficult for him, and we ended up getting him a bit earlier and not really let him get to that double 100. We didn't really want to let him get to the double 100, so kudos to us, but as I said, well played to him in the end.
Well, your bowlers played so brilliantly in Southampton and was so accurate. Was there a little bit of tiredness, do you think? Because people like Shannon Gabriel really put everything into the game at Southampton.
I think that coming off of the first game, it was a quick turnover between the matches. Usually in Test cricket, you have a little more time to play with in between the Test matches. But I guess at the situation with the virus and stuff, we were a little pressed for time, so we were rushing the games a little bit. And even so, when we got here, the weather wasn't good, so I don't really think that the guys had a little got enough time to put any miles in the leg or anything like that. The rain was falling, we didn't really get to practice. I mean, it's all good for the rest, but you still want to fine-tune and get that little run-through in the nets to tune up the skills or whatnot. But I thought that we started a little slow up front yesterday with the new ball. The guys' lines and lengths were a bit off, but I thought after that, the guys really hit the straps and came running hard.
And when there was a lot of focus on England's decision at the toss in Southampton, a lot of criticism of Ben Stokes for opting to do what he did. Has Jason looked at you at any stage and said, sorry guys, I should have batted at the toss?
No, well, we never play our cricket like that. Once a decision is made, we never go back and say we should have done this, we should have done that. Jason usually comes to the senior guys and have a chat about it. So once the guys put their heads together and come up with a decision, is no turning back or no going behind anyone's back and saying, "Oh, I told you we should have done this." Or once we come up with that decision, we're all in.
Do you still think you can get a result out of this, Roston?
It'll be hard to get a result, seeing the time that England took out of it for us. So it's just for us to play that patient game and see how close or if we can overhaul the big total that they posted. But right now I would say that England is in a better position right now, but cricket play is on the day, so anything can happen tomorrow. We don't know what tomorrow holds, but as I say, it's just for us to get close or surpass the total that they made, and then let them make the decision of what they want to do in terms of pushing for a win or taking a draw.
Of course, they take the draw. You've defended the trophy, so that's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? But look, great to talk to you, Roston. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much.
You're listening to the TMS podcast from BBC Radio 5 Live.
Now, during tea today, I spoke to Andy Moles, a member of the successful Warwickshire teams of the 1990s, and latterly the coach of Kenya, Scotland and Afghanistan. Today, he completed a 10-kilometre walk as part of the PCA's charity 10 for 10 Challenge, which is raising money for the Cricketers' Trust. Incredibly, he did this just 3 months after having his lower left leg amputated. So how is he feeling following his achievement?
It's a little bit tiring, but the good thing is I've got no aches and pains. So I've been doing it cumulatively over the last sort of 5 or 6 weeks, adding up every day. From at the start, I was doing it with a Zimmer frame because I could only do 40 or 50 metres at a time. And then went on to crutches. And then once I got used to that, and then I went on to be able to walk without any walking aids. And then just sort of added it up. And I've done the maximum I've done is 700 or 800 metres in a day in one go. But today I completed it, the final kilometre. And the good thing is there's no injuries to my leg, just a little bit tired, that's all.
I mean, it's an extraordinary story, this, Andy. You better tell us how all of this started, what happened to you.
Okay, well, back in February I was in Afghanistan working with the national team ahead of the Island series, and we went to India where the team prepared for 10 days before Lance Klusner, who's the national coach, came across to take over. So I was director of cricket, I was there, and obviously as a coach before, I just went through the preparation with the boys in a camp and returned to Cape Town, and I had a sore on my little toe. So I went to my doctor here because it sort of got progressively worse over the week I was in India, and she took a swab of the toe, sent it off for analysis. I got a phone call 2 days later. Present yourself to the hospital. You need to go straight away. You've got a serious issue, and it turned out that an MRSA bug, which was resistant to antibiotics. So over the next sort of 10 days, I was in hospital. I had intravenous antibiotics to try and stop the infection, which unfortunately the MRSA bug was resistant. So they amputated the little toe and part of my left foot, and hoping that would suffice. Sent me home, and then within a week I could tell that things weren't right. A very hot foot and sore in the wound. So I went back to the hospital, and I spent another sort of 4 or 5 days with antibiotics intravenous again. And the specialist came to see me, and he did sort of lead me into it for 3 or 4 days, so it wasn't a total shock. But on the 4th of April at 7:30 in the morning, during the morning rounds, he came to me and said, "Well, I'm sorry to tell you that this just isn't working, and we need to get ahead of the infection. Now, we can either keep going as we are, and we can just keep cleaning it out and cutting a little bit away sort of every 4 or 5 days, or we get ahead of the infection and we amputate at your just below the knee." Which honestly, I can tell you, I said to him, "Well, doctor, I wouldn't expect you to tell me how to play a full defensive. I'm not going to tell you about what I should be doing with my leg, if that's your professional opinion." And I'd done my research. He was one of the top surgeons in South Africa. So at 12 o'clock that day, on the 4th of April, I was taken down to theatre and they did the amputation, and I woke up at 4:30 in the room with half a leg.
Oh, it's extraordinary, isn't it? How did you cope with that? I mean, you've always been such an active person, obviously. To have to deal with that with only 3 or 4 hours notice, if you like.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that the first time I was informed, for when the surgeon left the room, I was in my small sort of the hospital room, which is like a small hotel room in these private hospitals. And I did have a bit of a wobbly lip for half an hour, and I felt sorry for myself. And it just suddenly hit me out of the blue, with the terrible diseases going on with this COVID at the moment, and terrible cancers and things like that. And I know people who are struggling and have struggled with those diseases. In reality, I've just lost a bit of mobility. I can still work in cricket, I still coach, I can still do everything as long as I get my mobility back. And I've taken that attitude to it, really. Yes, it was traumatic, and it was it's made a huge change to my life in sort of mobility around the house and things like that. But I think it's people close to me, it's affected them more than me, because a lot of them, my 2 sons and my partner, have a little bit not sure how to approach the subject when it first happened. They didn't know whether to crack a joke with me or feel sorry for me. And you know me, Agus, I don't want anybody feeling sorry for me. I've just got to crack on with it and make the best of it. And I generally feel good about myself. I'm looking forward to getting back to work now. Like I say, I've managed to walk 10 kilometres over the last 6 weeks. So far as getting out and coaching cricket and helping and advising youngsters to chase their dreams, I think I can get on and do my work again.
That's so typical of you. And you wouldn't have been listening when I was talking about our encounters together. You as opening batsman, of course, for Warwickshire all those years and so on. You're always there chirping away, such a fighter of a character. That you do see, if anybody can be equipped to have to deal with something like this, I'd have thought you'd be pretty well capable of doing so, do you think?
I think that, as I said, I'd be lying if I was to say that it wasn't traumatic and it wasn't upsetting. But as I say, once I got over it and I looked at it, and I was in hospital when COVID first started here, and I saw, unfortunately, 1 or 2 gurneys being wheeled past the out by the side of my room there when it first struck here. And I suddenly realised, yes, it is tragic, but I've still got my life. I've still got to be a positive out of this. And I've had lots of messages from all sorts of ex teammates, players from all around the world, people I've been coaching with, have been, certainly realised that this game of cricket, it is a village, it's a small world, and there's been some wonderful messages from lots of people that are sending their support, and it's been very helpful.
And so to walk 10 Ks, 4 months after
just
having...
Under
4 months after having half your leg amputated. Was your surgeon happy with this? I mean, just thought you were mad.
Yeah, well, you know what these surgeons are like. They want you to be up and active as soon as possible. So in that period, I did start, and I had a pain on the side of my knee. Nothing to do with the wound, but on the side of my knee, is because I've been inactive for so long, my patella wasn't running properly on its track across the knee, so I had the cortisone injection. So I had to have 10 days rest in the middle of that sort of 5-week period as well. So the way it worked, I was sort of in the end, over the last sort of 10 days or so, I've been doing 400, 500, 600 metres, 700 metres, back to back, and going out twice a day, 400 metres in the morning and 400 metres in the afternoon to catch up, because we wanted the finish date to be today. Today was the target date, and I wasn't going to let this date go by. I had to make sure that I worked with my big pal Tim Munton. We got together and we worked out a schedule and a programme that what needed to be done to make sure that I did complete it today. And all's well that ends well.
Yeah, we take so much for granted, don't we? We just do all the time, and we're having to learn how to walk again. I mean, how difficult has that been?
Well, the biggest thing is getting the confidence just to put your weight on sort of a foreign object which is attached to your left leg. But once you get the confidence and you understand that it will support you, and you understand that it can't break, and you understand that whatever you put it through, literally it'll be there and it won't break in half. Then the more you do it, as I say, started with a Zimmer frame, just walking, 20, 30 meters at a time, and then walked a bit further, then walked with picking the Zimmer frame up in front of me and trying to take a few steps with no support from the walking aid, and then from that then went to crutches, so then I could pick them up from under my arm and sort of walk, and then if I was tired, just put them back on the ground to support. So it's just getting used to it and getting in. And I've got excellent work here from the people who put together my prosthetic leg. I used to go and see them twice a week and just talk about how my walking style was and whether I was leaning too much left and right. And they're amazing what they can do with these legs these days. And I've got a leg now that is called just like a sports option. The ankle can twist a little bit. It's the same leg that you can play golf on, so it's like a sports variety. So hopefully I can get back to a quality of life where I can play golf again and be as active as I can and get on with my work.
Yeah. And PCA, why did you walk to raise money for the PCA particularly?
Yeah, well, what happened is that I spoke to my father and I spoke to Tim Munton, who's my closest buddy, that half an hour after I was told, because I'd been talking to Tim beforehand. And he contacted Grav at the Gravely at the PCA and just said, look, is there any way you can give him some help? Because this leg's ended up costing £10,000 or thereabouts with the operation. So they've helped financially. And also they've helped give support, emotional support, to me and my partner here. Spoken to her when it was all going on. Is everything right? Can we help in any way? I mean, they've offered to help me with mental health and stuff like that, but thankfully I'm mentally strong and I haven't needed any help so far. I've had no requirement to be helped in that area. So once I sort of got over the operation, I saw that they're doing this 10 for 10, which is you're supposed to walk, swim or run 10 kilometres and then put £10 into the charity and then nominate 3 people to do it on your behalf, because the Professional Cricketers Trust have had an awful summer this year, as you can imagine, in raising funds, because with the COVID experience there's been no cricket. So I thought, okay, I'd do this because they'd help me, but I was going to turn it round. Instead of putting in £10, I was going to challenge all ex-cricketers and current cricketers to do this. If I can do it on one leg, challenge them to do it. And if they can't do it, then I'll do the 10 kilometres, which I've finished today, and just make a donation, because at the end of the day, this money is going all to help current and ex-cricketers who have fallen on harder times. And we're all part of one family. We're all here to support each other. And I spoke to Grav and everybody at the PCA, and they were delighted, and they've assisted me to try and get this fund up and running. We've tried to raise £10,000, and very pleased to say we've gone over £6,500 today. So we're still trying to get up to that figure. So, as I say to any of your listeners, Agus, I've done the 10K. If they would like to donate to help this wonderful cause, please just go to the Just Giving page /Andy Moles, and every penny goes straight to the PCA charity, the Professional Cricketers Trust, and it's a wonderful cause.
It is, and you are an example of what it's there for as well. But realistically, Andy, going back to work, are you still engaged by Afghanistan?
Yes, I'm still their director of cricket. It's been, rather slow, because they're hoping to start the cricket in the country, their domestic cricket, in August. The government are giving the go-ahead that can restart. But their international cricket has obviously been obliterated, because we were supposed to play Zimbabwe last month. The Asia Cup is supposed to take place next month, and obviously we're getting ready for the World Cup in Australia. But looks like all those tournaments, the likelihood is they won't go ahead. So we've got no cricket for the rest of the year. So, as you'll understand, I'm trying to keep cricketers active and trying to keep them focused when they haven't got any cricket coming up is a difficult thing. So, we're trying to get them to understand, use this time to get fitter and stronger. But it's always difficult when you haven't got a start date to work to where they can get out onto the field.
Yeah. It must be really interesting working with that team, isn't it? I mean, to have come from where they were to where they are now. I mean, they've improved dramatically, haven't they? It must be very exciting to be involved with that.
It is very exciting, and we have immense highs and we have immense lows. You know, in the World Cup last year, we didn't perform as we should have done. There was all sorts of reasons that could be attributed to that. But you know, the one thing about our guys, their passion on their faces and the way they play is infectious. And you know, sometimes when under pressure, we don't perhaps make the right decision. We're very gung ho at times. I know Lance is working very hard on that to try and get the guys to be a bit more thoughtful and react. And weigh up options when they're under pressure. But you know, the talent in the country is ridiculous. I guess we had a leg spin camp, and we had about 60, 70 youngsters turn up. And okay, there was probably 20 of them that weren't as good as you want, but there was a good 40 different type leg spinners and Chinaman bowlers that you could see could play first-class cricket. And that was just in Kabul, not in the rest of the country, just in Kabul. They've got immense talent coming through. We've got some good quick bowlers that need... The big thing is we need to play more cricket. You know, we're good in Asian conditions, but like last year in the World Cup, we come to Europe, or we go to Australia, or we go to the West Indies, we go to New Zealand. It's difficult because our youngsters have not been exposed to those conditions. And that's a problem we're trying to put right, but especially it's been made even harder now because countries, when they want to play cricket now, they're looking for the bigger fixtures so they can sell it to cricket, because all cricket is run on finance. And obviously to play against Afghanistan is not a great draw, crowds and TV and things like that. So we're struggling, but you know, we have huge talent, and we believe that given an opportunity, we can grow, and in the next 4 or 5 years can become a serious test side, as well as at the moment we're an excellent T20 side, but our ODI side and our test cricket will get better. We just need more opportunity.
Well, Andy, you'll have touched many people in the course of the last 20 minutes or so, telling your recent story. Congratulations for what you've achieved today. And I really hope you reach your target and well beyond, and you look after yourself. And I hope we catch you.
Can I just mention one thing, Aggers? Is Lichfield Cricket Club have taken upon themselves, the captain there and one of his teammates. They've done 10-kilometre runs while I've been doing this, and I'll just put a special shout out to the people at Lichfield Cricket Club, because they've taken on this challenge as a club, and I think there's a good 10 or 15 people throughout the club that have worked hard for this charity. I just want to say a huge thank you to those, and to all, of course, who have made the donations to the cause. Well done, Andy. Look after yourself. Thank you. What a story that was from Andy Moles.